Hi, I'm Rob Go. I'm one of the co-founders of NextView Ventures, a seed stage firm here in Boston. And today I'm talking to Jason Jacobs, the founder of RunKeeper. Best place to start is just to tell us a little bit about your company and any metrics you can share so we get a sense of where you're at.
RunKeeper is a mobile fitness platform for runners and other fitness enthusiasts. Been around for about 3 years. So we started with an iPhone app for fitness tracking. Back in 2008, we were one of the first 200 apps on the platform, and we've since expanded to some other mobile platforms, integrated with some other devices. We're about over 6 million registered users, kind of low seven figures monthly active base. Yeah,
Cool.
and growing.
So you were very early in the app ecosystem, and yet you're not technical, you're not a developer. And you had this idea, how did you turn this idea into reality practically, especially for people who are watching this and they're wondering the same thing, right? Like, I have a great idea, I think I have an idea how to build it, but I actually can't build it myself.
Yeah, so I think a piece of it is just finding an idea that you can't stop thinking about and become borderline obsessed with, because if you feel like you're having to force it to go out and sell people and convince them to come, then probably the wrong idea. For me, I'd been waiting to find an idea that wasn't forced for a long time, and so once I found it, it didn't feel like I was selling. It felt like I was just letting people in on the secret that I had found that was so exciting I couldn't stop thinking about. And there were a lot of people that didn't share that excitement, but then every once in a while, if you talk to enough people, you start finding people that do. And then you bring them into the fold, and then it's 2, and then it's 3, and it proceeded very much that way.
Yeah.
So
where'd you go to find high quality people, though? Because like, you could go out there and you talk to a bunch of people, and if you're a dev shop for hire, of course they'll talk to you. Like, there's money involved. How did you actually attract high quality people day one? And how do you evaluate them too?
Yeah. So I think a part of it is it's a numbers game, in the sense that you really don't know what the right rock is that you're going to turn over, but you want to turn over a bunch of different rocks. For me, it was anything from posting ads on Craigslist, going to hacker conferences, meeting with every development shop in town, meeting with as many software engineers as I could, meeting with VPs of engineering or CTOs that were managing software engineers, just really putting myself out there. But then in parallel, refining the idea, researching the market, talking to potential users, speaking with serial entrepreneur types to explain our approach and get input and feedback. And what ended up happening is, it was kind of lucky that it was a process to find the team, because along the way, the idea got more refined. My antenna to assess technical talent and potential teammates became more refined. The story got tighter. It's like everything just started coming together, and so if I had found people right away, it would have been more likely that it would have been the wrong people.
So in the beginning, if I recall, you had a sort of outsourced dev shop working for you, as well as a couple other folks who were doing it independently as contractors, nights and weekends. How did you come up with that combination, and how did you choose these people?
Yeah, well, that's sort of true. The one distinction is that, so there was a dev shop, right, that I paid out of my personal savings, and there were 3 moonlighters initially, but I think the distinction is that I didn't set out looking for contractors and try to convince people that were used to making X dollars an hour to work for free. To me, equity was our most valuable currency as a company, and so I set out to find people that wanted to be founders, who maybe didn't have the personal situation or the risk profile to go totally salary free up front, but loved the idea of coming in as a founder, believed in the mission, and were willing to work for equity initially in lieu of cash and part-time, until the business was at a point where they could step in full-time. But from the outset, it was looking for founder types as opposed to contractors.
Any other words of advice that you often give non-technical founders about earning a technical co-founder, and then evaluating folks who may want to work with you?
Sure. So I think earning, an idea is, no matter how good an idea is not worth very much at all. It's all about execution, and so if I were a technologist and I'm the one that would have to be building everything, well, I could pick an idea and go build it. What do I need you for? So I think part of it is showing that you bring things to the table that are a complement and of value to your potential partner. The other piece is making sure that you're collectively on the same page about what it is that you're building and what's so exciting about it. And it's not just about that. I mean, you want to talk philosophically. About what it means to have a fulfilling life. Have you talked to your spouse, if you're married, about this big commitment you're about to embark on? How much personal runway do you have? What's your goal with this? Do you want to sell it in 2 years, or do you want to build this for the next 20 years of your life, or 10 years? What are you trying to accomplish? And maybe the answers will change over time, but I think being on the same page from the outset is critically important, especially if you're looking to embark on this journey with someone, as opposed to just hiring a development shop. It's a very, very different assessment process all around.
It's a pretty, some say, a frothy market right now, especially for Series A dollars. Do you feel like hey, the getting's good, I should raise as much as I can right now to give me a big cushion, or how do you think about that?
I mean, we know some people advise that. It's hard for me to get comfortable with that mentality because once you take in that round, then you are signing on to build a business that gets to be the size of X, and then the heat gets turned on for you to put that money to work, even if it's not turned on by your investors. I would imagine, and I've never been through it with a large institutional round, that there's self-imposed heat, because it's like, well, if we just deluded ourselves to go take this money, we better put it to work. I would say that if you see a big opportunity, but you haven't necessarily tuned so that you know that the car is on the road heading down the path that you want it to be on when you really start scaling, then there's something to be said for being patient and reserving your right to tune. I'm impressed by the people who can raise the big round and still have the discipline to not spend it while they tune. But then you would also ask the question of, well, did they raise too early? And I don't know the answer to that, but those are interesting questions.
You mentioned tuning a lot. What does that mean? What does that mean for you right now?
So I think for us, we see there's basically no cap on the size of the opportunity that we see. It's that big and important. But
can you talk about that a bit more? Because isn't this just a run, GPS run tracking app?
Yeah, for any of our competitors out there, we're just a cute little iPhone app. Don't worry about us. But no, it's funny. We spent the last 3 years building a vertically focused running system, and it took a while for people to even realize that we were a system and not just a smartphone application. But that's what we were building, and I think we've done a decent job of building a competitive vertical running system. And at the same time, what we learned along the way is that there were these vertical systems emerging in all different aspects of health. So anything from cycling, hiking, swimming, skiing, but not just sports, things like diet and weight loss, stress, sleep, the food you eat, your workouts at the gym. And so the good thing for the users is that the RunKeepers of the world in running, well, that's happening for them in all these different categories, but their experience is getting more and more fragmented as more and more of these categories have systems. And there's big companies that are getting built in each of these categories, but until there's kind of an underlying layer of, I'll call it, aggregation and correlation across all of these different categories, so that as a user I can keep all my stuff in one place. You can almost think of it as like a Facebook-like interface that can give context to all these different categories, because as a user I just have, I have my health information. Why can't I keep it all in one place? So until someone does that, this isn't going to, this whole thing that all these different verticals are doing is not going to get truly mainstream because, the end user isn't going to have a holistic view. And not just the user, but, if all my information's in one place, then I could authorize people to access it and give me a better experience. Whether it's a race, the gym, the doctor, the sporting goods store where I go in to get my gear and equipment, even the supermarket, everything should tie back to my health graph. So that's kind of the big opportunity that we see, and no one pushed us harder than our users over the last 3 years to give them that holistic view, because they use all these other vertical systems too. And so we've kind of stepped out in the last few weeks with our health graph API to enable all these other vertical systems to tie in to our community and to this kind of central aggregation layer for health information.
Biggest mistake since starting the company?
I think it was heading out at full sprint pace when it takes a marathon. And so I had a tendency in the early days of the company, it's still the early days of the company, but in the very early days of the company, to really run myself down pretty bad, to the sense that it made kind of functioning in the daily world difficult sometimes, because I was just so worn out, exhausted, stressed, overtired, undernourished, and that's not sustainable. So it's always a tough balance, but I think I would just be more cognizant of taking care of myself and the people around me, all the way through. And I'm better now, but that's also something that I'm continuing to improve upon over time, because I hope to always be doing this, which means that everything else has to work, right?
Best piece of advice you've gotten?
I really like Dave Balter's blog post from a few weeks ago about just the importance of staying humble. I think that we're still early on and we still have a ton to prove, but I think success has a tendency to be intoxicating. So I would say that it's critical to stay grounded along the way, to surround yourself with people that are going to tell it to you straight, and just to not believe your own BS.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for watching.